The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Young at Heart. This is a production of the William K. Sanford Colonie Public Library, and it is shown on Access Channel 13 in the town of Colonie, in the town of Bethlehem. Hopefully some other municipalities will pick us up in a short period of time. Today, I thought, because we've been doing this now for a few years, and I thought that we would start something new every now and then called Spotlight on Senior. And it is to bring someone who has had a remarkable life and a wonderful senior year or two, or maybe even 7 or 8, and is active, knows what they're talking about when it comes to activities that seniors can do and how to become an active senior citizen. Today, my guest is Mary Lou Bartolotta Connolly. And if you know the name or you know Mary Lou, I'm not surprised, because she is a factor wherever she goes. She's one of the former directors of the state I Love New York program. She is a singer and a pianist. She's a former Albany County legislator, and she owns her own business, Bartolotta Connolly Insurance in Green Island. And she's a resident of Guilderland, New York, and I want to welcome you to Young at Heart, Mary Lou.
My pleasure.
For our first spotlight, I couldn't think of anybody better, because I've known Mary Lou now for quite a number of years, and I know that some of the things that you've gone through, the goods and the bads. You've had hills and peaks, just like everybody does, and you have made your mark on the Capital Region and on the state of New York with your work in I Love New York, and on the Capital Region with your work as a volunteer. I know that you play almost every year at the Equinox Thanksgiving dinner. You play at other areas, other places, wherever anybody asks you to play piano, you do that. And I want to talk a little bit about your musical career. And I want to talk about some of the people you might have dated when you were down in New York City, and some of the wonderful stories that you've told me. Some that we can't tell, but most of them that we can. Mary Lou, where were you born?
Okay, I was born and raised. I'm a farmer's daughter. Okay. And actually, it's still one of the largest fruit farms in the Hudson Valley, between Hudson and Germantown. It's Bartolotta Kleinskill Fruit Farm. And I was born and raised on the farm. And I worked on the farm as a kid. It's a fruit farm. My cousin is the president of the corporation today. And, it was a way of growing up in the country. My father was a farmer and a politician, and my mother was a school teacher. My mother was from Watervliet, and she went to Oneonta, and she started teaching in a one-room schoolhouse. And it was just a wonderful lifestyle. I mean, in the summer, talking about Albany in this market area, I would get up early in the morning. I mean, they would have arrested us today because I was young labor. But I loved it. We would get up early in the morning. I'd get up at 3, 4 o'clock and go to morning market at Manans with my father to sell the fruit on the farm, from the farm at the Manans market, which is still there today.
And then you go back home and go to school?
Then I'd go back home. Well, no. In the summer,
in the summer. Okay.
And then I'd go home and I'd work in the packing house, packing fruit all day. Wow. So, it was just a beautiful, beautiful life.
Now, anybody who knows Mary Lou knows that every year you get peaches. Now, are those peaches from that farm?
The farm. A good number of the road stands throughout this entire region carry, we have apples, peaches, nectarines, pears, plums. I mean, the farm is spectacular, and my cousin has brought it into this new generation beautifully. We've got such variety, and we also have the little donut peaches, And so many of the stands in this community use ours because ours are grist, are phenomenal. Actually, Commissioner Ball, the commissioner of Egg and Markets, one day said to me, "Your apples are some of the finest in New York State." I mean, he knew. And this was when we were doing at the Times Union Center. We were bringing in local products.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
He was there for the opening of that.
Yeah, that was Live Life Local that we had. Now, can you tell me a little bit about, all right, so you grew up on a farm in a rural area, and at some point you ran for assembly down there.
Well, that was many years later. In 1964, my father was in politics. Daddy was one of the only Democrats ever elected in the town of Livingston. I think he won by 2 votes one time and maybe 3 the next or something like that. But he was very involved. Actually, I came across a picture of my father on the stage with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh my God.
When she was speaking in Columbia County many years ago. He was wearing his white tux jacket. And, you know, he was involved. He just felt somebody should be. He was the oldest of 13. His father was from Italy, from Sicily. His mother was Dutch and Scotch. She was actually born in the house where Robert Fulton lived when he built the steamboat.
Wow.
In Linlithgow, which is within the township of Livingston.
Now, did your father start the farm?
No, my grandfather.
Okay.
My grandfather came from Sicily, and all the children, 13, grew up on the farm, worked the farm, and it just grew. And then, as I said, my father was involved in politics. So in '64, I ran a congressional campaign in Columbia County for Joseph Resnick, who founded Channelmaster Corporation in Ellenville, because my family's name was known. And instead of going back to college, majoring in music, in '65 I went to Washington during the Johnson administration.
So, all right, so let's go from that to your first run.
Okay, well, after that I lived in New York City. I was in international travel, and I was coming home every weekend because the farm to this day will always be my home. And a man by the name of Thomas H. Quinn said, "Why don't you run for the assembly?" So in '76, I ran for assembly in Columbia, Greene, and 85 square miles in Albany counties, and against Larry Lane. And, you know, it was 8 Republicans to 1 Democrat, but miraculously, out of 60,000 votes, I only lost by 1,200. I had more votes on the Democratic line than my opponent had on the Republican line, but the conservative line brought him over the top, which is the same to this day. And even in this structure here, when I ran for the county legislature. But I ran for assembly, and then in '77, I moved to Albany to work for Mary Ann Krupczak, who was the first woman lieutenant governor in the country. She beat Mario Cuomo in a primary for lieutenant governor. And you know, they talk about women in politics, but very few people mention her.
Right, you're absolutely right.
And she was the one who broke the barrier.
In New York State, absolutely. Absolutely. And then she ran against Governor Kerry.
She primaried Kerry and lost.
Yeah. So what did you do for the lieutenant governor?
I was her scheduling coordinator, so I knew every nook and cranny in New York State. And having been in the international tourism industry in New York City, I mean, I was with a company, we were the largest wholesalers of student tours to Europe in the late 60s and 70s, and then I was with a company that arranged medical seminars in Spain and Portugal, so I got to see the world with my job. But I Love New York was in its infancy, and Commissioner John Dyson was Commissioner of Commerce. But John and I knew each other from Washington in '65. He was down there then, and he knew of my tourism background. And when I Love New York began, and Mary Ann lost the primary, and I was out of a job. So folks, I know what it's like to be out of a job and not know what you're going to do the next day. And John hired me as a regional director for I Love New York for this capital region. and out the Leatherstocking country, out to
Cooperstown,
Casanova, down to Binghamton, Cooperstown, and up to Washington County. And it was, my job was to work with the local communities to help them build their images and figure out what their assets are to attract tourism. I mean, those days, tourism was the second largest industry in New York State. For every dollar we spent on the I Love New York program, $7 came back into the communities in taxes alone.
And that I Love New York label is still popular.
It's still there. Actually, they're doing, for a while it wasn't as savvy, and it seems as though they're coming back. I've been looking at the advertising. I mean, you take advantage of what you've got. You know, very often we can't see the trees through the forest. We take our communities for granted. I mean, it's gorgeous. You know, wherever you drive, it is just spectacular. You know, New York State it's so diverse. And I don't care where you go, whether it's up to Washington, Cambridge. And I was talking to someone the other day about the Chittenango Falls out by Casanova. It's higher than Niagara Falls. I mean, there's so much history, so much beauty. It's, you know, we had a program, More to See and Do Than Most Countries on a Tank of Gas. I hope they bring that back, because that's what it's all about.
And now you are, I can say without doubt, you're an expert on Albany County, and the diversity in this county is absolutely amazing too. The people don't even realize what they can see from one end of the county.
Well, look at the county now has Lawson Lake, you know, which is just, you know what's wonderful is they're utilizing it for children, our youth, to go to Lawson Lake with the summer programs. You know, I went out there, and the diversity of people, whether you're from Westerlo or the city of Albany, children go to Lawson Lake. That was a treasure that was closed for years.
Right.
It's just magnificent to watch the children who have never gone fishing they were teaching me one day, didn't do too good for me, but they were having a blast.
I believe that the Lawson Lake now is opening on June 1st, opening a basketball court that was built with union labor for free. You know, they donated their time and they got the equipment and everything else, which is a great addition to it. And you're right, Lawson Lake all the way up, and the farms in Albany County are amazing. You know, some of the produce and the meats that you can get, absolutely amazing. Now, we're filming this, we're taping this, that shows my age.
Well, I was in the movie Hello, Dolly. Does that count?
That does count, yes. We're taping this in the town of Colonie. And Mary Lou, you were a county legislator for a number of years. You were instrumental in the Albany County Airport Authority. Talk about that.
Well, you know, it's the little things in life. You know, the trouble is you've got all new folks in there now. They forget what paved the way to be where we are today. Because of my tourism background, I was appointed, actually Frank Camiso appointed me to the, actually I think it was Frank, and Harold Joyce and Charlie Hotailing. We were all there. We were at 7 o'clock in the morning, week after week, month after month, at meetings at the airport to create the authority to put together a program so that we could be proud of Albany International Airport, which we all are. I think one of the most, and you know, I was there. When I went to the opening and I walked through, I said, this is my airport, because it's very important. It's the gateway to our community. And you know, it was very, very, very exciting. Actually, a cute story. A few months ago, Norwegian Air is flying into Stewart. And there was a snowstorm, and they had to land in Albany. And Norwegian Air was treated, and the folks who were on that flight were treated like royalty. They went through customs, And boy, wouldn't it be great to get Norwegian Air into Albany now.
Can you imagine that?
Well, I have a friend in Norway who I spoke with, and I said, and she knows the owner of Norwegian Air, and she wants to come over to visit me this summer. And I said, wouldn't it be great to come to Albany?
Yeah, get off the airplane and go right over to your house.
No, but I mean, I was on that committee for 22 years. The entire time of my legislative tenure, I was on the airport committee, the Civic Center, the Times Union Center, when that was the Knickerbocker Arena. You know, I was on that because of my tourism background. Tourism is a major industry, and I was the only one in the legislature really with that background to this day. And you know, it's because you don't stay in the hotels here, you live here, because I mean, you go to the events. Look what the Pepsi Arena has done, the Times Union Center has done for the community. We are able to see venues that are the top in the world right here in our own backyard. And that's tourism.
Another thing that I want to talk to you about, because you were kind of alone in your caucus, not really alone, but one of the few that stood up and said that you wanted to support renovation of the Albany County nursing home.
You know, it was, if we didn't do it, you know, this is the crazy thing about the nursing home. I was accused of not supporting the nursing home. That is so far from the truth. My husband spent 111 days 4.5 years ago in the nursing home. We have the best physical therapy department, bar none, in my opinion, because they didn't think my husband would walk again, and he did. And the nursing home, my statement was, the legislature sat on their hands and didn't do what we should have been doing. And my statement was, if we can't get it done, then let's consider privatizing it. Because we weren't getting off the stick. And it was taken that I didn't support it. Unfortunately, my husband passed away in the nursing home on November 16th, which is hard. I still can't believe it, but he was being taken care of with dignity. And don't ever tell me, I spent more time over the years at that nursing home, I dare say, than any other legislator, because for years I would play the piano and sing. When he was in the nursing home, I would go Sunday morning and play the piano for the Mass. But I have been playing piano and singing at nursing homes, I hate to admit it, for close to 50 years. You know, God gives you a gift, you got to give it back. And I would go, when I was chair of social services, just for a short while, I would go to all of the meetings, the Quality Assurance Review Committee meetings. You know, the nursing home, actually I was just there a little while ago. The folks don't work someplace for 25, 30 years if it's not a quality place to work at.
You're absolutely right. And you and our county executive were both accused of not wanting to see the nursing home flourish. And now I can tell you with great pride that the nursing home is, for the first time, that probably in many, many, many years, is not losing $1 million a month. They're actually, they're right at the break-even point, and that's going to get even better. And they've just started a $60 million renovation.
It's about time.
That would make it a true home. Instead of, it was built like a hospital, but it's going to be a home. And what you say is right. People that have been working at the Albany County Nursing Home have been there for a long time and are well respected. And you know, I think Larry Slatke, who is the new executive director, has done a phenomenal job of turning things around up there financially. It was always quality, but now the finances are back.
Well, you know, the funny thing, and people do not remember this, and it's got to be at least 15, when Pataki was governor, we had an approval to do the nursing home. And then he put a moratorium on it. Everything was done, black and white, the design. We were ready to go ahead with a new nursing home. And Pataki put a moratorium on the nursing homes and put a kibosh on it.
The Burger Commission, and
That was before the Burger Commission.
Okay, they downsized a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Too. I can remember that. Now, I also want people to know, because, again, we're in Colonie, you live in Guilderland, but you have shown from the airport to the nursing home, and you were one of only 2 legislators to show up at the announcement, and it was a beautiful announcement of the Soldier On coming to
I was
Colonie.
shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked because, you know, I wish the legislative group would forget politics and do what's right for the community. And that Soldier On project, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes because the day that I was there, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. You know, the military have paid their dues.
Yeah.
And they've saved our lives, and they're out there supporting our country and us individually in return. And it was just so magnificent to be there that day. And it's in a beautiful, beautiful project, and it's going to become a reality.
It is. Yep.
But you know what bothers me? Years ago, I had put forth a resolution to look at Ann Lee. And I asked, actually, it was Executive Breslin at the time, to look at the Ann Lee for affordable senior housing to see if there was a grant, because there were a lot of grants out there.
Yes, there are.
To turn that into senior housing. And then people could go to Albany County as they needed to, but they would be on the same campus.
Right, right.
And it wasn't looked at in those days, but, you know, I was a little bit ahead of my time.
Well, you know, that the Ann Lee home, if anybody drives by the Ann Lee home, that's going to be housing for veterans. It's going to be a whole campus, not only housing, but also they'll have classes there, they'll have counseling there, et cetera. It's going to be a wonderful testament to what you and Executive McCoy and a lot of the legislators feel is you know, the people who have served our country and put their lives on the lines for us, you know, deserve something better than what they get sometimes. But you were there, and the only other legislator to be there, and even though she's in the other party, I know you're friends, is Patty Lockhart.
Yep, she's...
You know, and you both showed up at this thing, along with, like you said, hundreds of other people. We had colonels there, and a general, and Congressman Conco, and you know. But I was surprised that the legislature didn't. You know,
well, you know, I think sometimes individuals can't see the trees through the forest. Again, they don't understand. You know, the legislature is not really supposed to be full-time. But in my heart, it always was full-time, because when I was called on, I was there. And I don't care where it was in Albany County, because I didn't represent just the people of Guilderland. I represented every individual who lives in this county.
Right.
And I think that that's what people forget is, oh, my district, my district. No, it's the residents, everyone, because when you make a vote, it has an effect on every person.
Absolutely.
And that's important. And, you know, that's one thing Patty Lockhart and I, and there was Debbie Bush, we always worked together, even though we were different parties, because we worked for what's best. We didn't go party lines all the time. And boy, I got criticized for it. And I really got it knocked out of me because of that. But I believe in what's right. You know, I'm a business person, I'm a farmer's daughter, and I own my own insurance agency. I have always in my life done everything based on common sense. And I had a meeting once with someone in the legislature, and I said, excuse me, I only have common sense. I don't want to pick on attorneys, because there are a lot of attorneys in it, and we need them in our society as well. But I don't do things based on what's legal, and sometimes you break the rules a little bit because it's what's best for the people.
As my father used to say, common sense overrides all other rules.
Yes.
And if common sense says somebody needs help, they need help, no matter how you have to get
Yep.
it to them. As long as as long as it's not, as Dan McCoy says, as long as it's not illegal, we can do it. And I think he means that. So fast forward a number of years from your days as a farmer's daughter, and you meet a gentleman from Albany by the name of Bob Connolly.
Yep.
Now, how did that happen?
Well, I don't know where everybody meets everybody nowadays, but I met Bob first at Lacerre. I was with someone else, and he introduced me to Bob. And then we were at not the Victory Cafe, but another one of the downtown Yorkstone Pub. And he came in, and I was talking with someone who had a plane that used to fly Mary Ann Krupsack around the state. And he walks in and he says, "You know Bob?" I said, "Of course I know Bob." Put my arm around him, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I didn't get married until I was 41.
So by marriage, you got yourself into the insurance business.
Yeah, well, I lost my job in '91 for I Love New York, and I was devastated because the Elder Cuomo cut the I Love New York budget. And I said, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? That was '91. And my husband in '92 said, "Get your insurance license." I told him he was crazy, but I did. And the same year in '92, I ran. It enabled me to have time, and I ran for the Albany County legislative seat in Guilderland. And I was the 5th Democrat in 145 years elected in Guilderland.
Wow.
in 145 years. And I was the only one elected 6 times to the Albany County legislature from Guilderland. A lot of the folks out there forgot that because they know in it now, they don't know the groundwork. I mean, I was 2nd vice chair of the Guilderland Dems. I was very involved. And I did it because I believed in it. I believed in what I was doing, and I won, and I've been in, I was in for 22 years and went door to door campaigning. The last couple of years were a little bit more difficult because my husband had health issues.
Yes.
I attended my meetings, did what I believed, but I didn't do the door to door the way I had used to. I used to do it. I mean, I'd have people driving me down back roads, because Guilderland is very rural. And I just campaigned, and I believed in what I did, and I take great pride. The defibrillators.
That was your bill.
The defibrillators, I had said they were needed years ago. I was on Operation Heartbeat with the American Heart Association. And they said, oh no, they're not really needed. Well, guess what? Someone passed away at a legislative meeting. And guess what? Defibrillators then came to the office. I did get an award from the firefighters at the airport because I got defibrillators at the airport, all over the airport, Albany County Nursing Home, and the jail.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why is it in politics that we always react to things? Now, you wanted defibrillators before there was a tragedy.
Absolutely.
Before there was a tragedy. But once there's a tragedy, then the eyes are open. They say,
it's the same thing with the gun laws. Tragedies happen, then everybody goes, well, maybe I'm just got inklings. I was on the Heart Association, Operation Heartbeat, and we discussed it. We got them I play golf. We got them at golf clubs. The Golf Association supported it, because people, it happens. And, it's all these little crazy things that, as I said, it's like with the nursing home, with the senior housing, everybody has these knee-jerk reactions instead of thinking ahead. And that's what I've always been. I was brought up that way. You don't wait for a crisis. You try to prevent crisis.
It's a good lesson for our legislators to learn, is that being proactive saves an awful lot of money in the long run when you think about it, because you don't have to.
And lives.
And lives also. Now, your husband was a very successful businessman with the insurance company, and it was Connolly Insurance. Now it's Bartolotta Connolly Insurance.
Well, it's Bartolotta Connolly. He was in the insurance business for years. He was in with D. Benedetti for a while, and then '97. I created Bartolotta Connolly Insurance with him as my, I mean, he was the brains. He was the brains behind the operation. And, you know, Bob, though, he was just such a remarkable man. My husband had polio as a young man. He played basketball his first year at Siena. Actually, Father Pete Young performed the mass for Bob's celebration of his life, and he called my husband. My husband just was a gym rat because he played basketball. Bob was the first athletic director of the boys club in Albany. He was very involved. He started Lassie's League because he had 5 daughters. You know, he was sports were so important to him, and he played basketball at the Steuben Athletic Club into his 60s, for God's sakes. He just loved his sports. But then he was in the insurance business for years, his whole life, and knew the industry inside and out. And as I said, in '92 I got my license, and I've been in the industry ever since. But you know, my whole purpose in life is to serve people. I never had children, so you know, I do a lot of volunteer work with. I was an Albany Rotarian for 12 years, working bingo for senior services, playing the piano. For years, I played the piano for Hope House's annual dinner, Northeastern Association of the Blind. I don't charge. God gave me a gift, and I give it back to the community. And you know, insurance is a service industry, because you go in and you're trying to help individuals have coverage and explain to them why they need certain coverages versus, well, I don't need much, but if you have an accident, if you have a fire and you don't have the proper coverage, I mean, that's why Red Cross is so important, because they help people after tragedies such as fires, because individuals don't understand what insurance can do for them. You know, if you have an apartment and you have $20,000 worth of clothing and furniture and everything else, the insurance costs you maybe $100 a year, $120. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you were to have a loss, you've got somewhere to go.
Now let me ask you something. Your husband unfortunately passed away last November. And all of a sudden, well, it's not really all of a sudden, because I know Mary Lou, and I know that when Bob had the debilitating disease and wasn't able to get out, you were running. Not only were you running, at one point you were serving as a legislator, running for re-election as a legislator, and taking care of your husband at the same time, and running the business. And
multitask.
What was that like? To all of a sudden now you have to run a corporation, a business.
Well, you know, I will never go back.
At an advanced age, I might say. I mean, you are the youngest person that I know at your age. But
I'm 72. You know, I'm not, but I don't look a day over 69.
No, you do
That's
not.
what I
You're
tease
right.
everybody.
But what, you know, what? How? I don't understand how you do it. How you
You've got a will. You know, if you love someone, and to this day, I have absolutely no regrets. You know, and anyone out there who has lost their partner knows how difficult it is. I was speaking with someone the other day who lost her husband. They were only married 10 years and she lost him. And a day doesn't go by. And I said to her, I said, you know, I have absolutely no regrets. My husband never had a frozen dinner. I cooked everything from scratch. I made all my homemade sauce, my homemade jam. I took care of him. The last few years were not easy because he had post-polio syndrome. He fell, and
cancer.
He had, in 1 year, he had an aortic valve, a pacemaker, 2 melanoma surgeries, and larynx cancer. He got over the larynx cancer, and then, unfortunately, a blood infection hit him. We didn't know what it was, and he moved on. He had great faith. He had great faith, and he moved to another world. And actually, his brother-in-law, my sister's husband, passed away a year and a half before of a blood infection as well. And, you know, it was so difficult. And anyone who's home taking care of their significant others or their parents, I know what they're going through. Because I had to help him get out of bed. He didn't have the strength. First, it started with the post-polio syndrome. Years ago, people didn't live this old, so they didn't know what post-polio syndrome was. And I know a lot of people in the community who are going through the same thing now, and it's exhausting. And, you know, but I cooked for him. But one thing I did do is I called the county, Albany County, and I said, I don't know who to turn to. And there are programs. And I was able to get someone to help me 15 hours a week. And that was phenomenal. I mean, don't be afraid to look for assistance. You know, I had a lot of friends who helped me because it's a 24/7 job. You know, I got a senior monitor. They used to call them baby monitors, and I kept it in his bedroom. And so if he needed me, I was there in a split second. And also, they have the life support. You know, and it's just the little things that give you peace of mind. You know, I would be more than willing to sit down with anyone and go through what I went through, because he was the love of my life. I mean, we had 31, it would have been 30, we were a month short of 31 phenomenal years as husband and wife. And I have no regrets. There was nothing that my husband wanted that he didn't have access to.
And you just mentioned something that is very good for our viewers to hear, because there are so many caregivers out there that aren't aware that there are places that you can call for help. There's a New York Connects at 447-7177 for any of your needs that you have, whether it's you need a respite, you need to get away for a little while, or you need to just go to the movies with a friend. We have people that will come in and sit with you, or sit with your loved one for a while. If it's cleaning that your mother or grandmother or your wife needs help with, if it's home delivered meals that you for some reason can't prepare your own meals, or you don't have the money for food, which is a lot of seniors that don't have.
It's either medication or food.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
And they starve.
Yep. Transportation. We will provide transportation
absolutely.
all over the place.
I don't know what I would have done without the transportation, because eventually he was in an electric wheelchair. And I couldn't do him for the longest. I mean, we had to, at our age, we had to refinance our house and build a handicapped accessible addition on the house for him. We had to put a bedroom downstairs. I mean, I'll never have any money in my life but he had a quality of life.
And he enjoyed that bedroom. I remember, you know, and I wish Bob had lived, because I'm going to tell you something. If he could have gotten in here and talked, he could talk about politics and sports in this area better than anyone I've ever met in my life. And I know Bob, and I'm a political nut, and I love to talk politics, and he could run circles around me.
Oh my God. You know, Bob was at I guess it was the DeWitt Clinton, when John F. Kennedy came to Albany to ask Mayor Cornings for his support. He was there. He witnessed that. You know, it's he knew he used to play cards with Mayor Corning. You know, because his father went into the military with Mayor Corning. You know, so he knew. He was the paper boy downtown. Everybody knew Bob because he was a paper boy. You know, he delivered the papers. He worked his way through Siena.
And Mary Lou, you know, thinking about it, what a wonderful life you've had. To be able to be part and witness some of the things that you've seen throughout your life. I mean, it's just an amazing journey that you've had, and you've given us a whole insight into it. And you've also given us a lot, and this is why I want to do Spotlight on seniors, is because people like yourself who have, and you talked about the good points of your life and the points that were struggles, and how you get through them. And that's what we want to talk about, because 72 years old is not an old person any longer. and anybody who doesn't know that, take a look at the Queen and Prince in England. 96 years old, just coming off a hip operation, and walks into the church like a young guy, you know? And it's just amazing if we could just understand that, and young people need to understand that the vitality, the experience, and the knowledge that older residents, older community members have and can give to, whether it's a job or whether it's just a conversation with a family, and talk about what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. Mary Lou, thank you so much for being with us.
It's been an honor, and you know we're pals. And
yes, we are.
You know, for those of you that don't know, Tom was the voice at my husband's funeral. He sang. He's got a phenomenal voice. If you've never heard him, you've got to listen to him, because he is phenomenal.
Greg has taken his headphones off. He doesn't want to hear about it. It'll never happen here.
Oh no, God! I mean, really, what a voice! And actually, Tom, I've played and he's sung with me over the years. You know, God gives you gifts. You got to give it back.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully we have it and we can give it back. Thank you so much for being with us.
My privilege.
Okay, bye-bye. So we'll see you again next month on Young at Heart. Thank you.